Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Reid Senescu with us from Doxel, who really has a software and technique for creating vision and clarity to your projects. And more importantly than that, he's a AI and a technical specialist in our industry. He really brings technology to the construction world. And with that, I'm really excited about having Reid on the podcast. Reid, welcome.
Thanks, Anthony. Great to be here.
As we look at technology, and all of us are looking for that differentiating factor to help us really take our projects through with better clarity. And at the end of the day, we want to be done faster and make more money, right? That's what we're looking to do. And when we start to look at the brain damage that we've gone through in our industry, where we really, I think most of us up until maybe the last 10 years have really worked on projects very similar to how they built the Coliseum. We took heavy crap from one spot to another one, and we banged on it, we yelled at each other, and then we had these projects that kicked out. But the impact of that today doesn't work like it used to, and we're looking for smarter ways to build. And we start to look at this. Along comes Reid, and we start looking at this in a smarter way. What are we starting to look at in our future? Where are we looking to take technology for projects that we're working on?
Yeah, great question, Anthony. Look, I mean, at Doxel, we're providing automated progress tracking today, right? And we're on hundreds of jobs, and we are helping customers keep their projects on time and on budget. But where we're headed is really to this world of AI, where every decision that you make on your construction site is the best decision that you could possibly make because you have this little AI assistant, right? This AI construction assistant ensuring that you're always making the best decisions to keep your project on time and on budget. And you have this like situational awareness, so that you always know what's going on your site, and you're calling the supply chain guy at the right time. You're calling your material guy at the right time. You're asking for more labor on the right time. You have this sort of visibility on your construction site, such that you're like this superpower superintendent, making great decisions because you have this AI assistant on your site.
It's funny. Just before I walked into this podcast, I just got done meeting with all of our superintendents and project managers, and we were talking about our schedules, and for most of our projects we have a couple of schedules. We have these milestone schedules, we have an overall project schedule, and then we have this 3-week look ahead schedule. And every week they're sending out this to the customer, a 3-week look ahead schedule to a customer. And I said to them, guys, we're going to stop doing this. We're going to have one schedule. All the data's got to get pulled from the one schedule. And when you start to look at how deep, in order for us to get successful on a project, right? The up until now, it's been really difficult to get these amazing schedules. And the point we're trying to get at is where everybody who shows up at our job site, we're telling them exactly what they're expecting to do for that day. A lot of us let the subs come in. We go, hey, we have a rough inspection by 3 weeks from now on a Thursday, and you do what you got to do to get to that rough inspection. And that really is about as deep as we get in scheduling. And sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't, but there's no real way of measuring, are they on target or are they not? And when we ask them to get deep dive into a schedule and look at, hey, before you get here, here's what we expect you to do on Monday. By the end of the day, Monday, I need this done, right? There isn't a clarity of vision when we put the schedule together. And then we get what we kind of get on the backside of that. And there's some frustration there. And part of it was that, can humans think that deep? Can we get that evolved where we get to that micro level of a schedule to make sure that we can see the exact things we need someone to do?
Right, Anthony. I mean, if you think about it, like, look, the construction industry has been around for millennia, right? We've been building schedules ever since the construction industry started thousands of years ago, right? And over time, we've created ways to de-risk things for ourselves. Like in a way, a schedule is a great way to cover your ass, right? Like that's one of the points of a schedule, right? It's not just to plan, but also to build in enough buffer into your schedule so when the stuff that you don't know is going to happen happens, you have a little bit of cushion so you can still deliver on time. And what we do at Doxel is we use image recognition from the cameras that you already have on site to map quantities installed on your construction site, map that to your schedule. So you always know exactly where you are on your schedule. And once you know exactly where you are, once you have that situational awareness of where am I on installing ducts, where am I on installing fire sprinklers, you can make really good decisions in real time about what to do next week, about what to do today, about how to keep your trades flowing on your site, how to keep them out of each other's way, so that you can be really productive. And suddenly, the schedule is not just this way where you're covering your butt to make sure you have enough buffer so that it looks like at the end of the project you're on time. It's this way where you can optimize your project, right? Truly optimize your project because you have all this information at your fingertips, and it's visualized in this beautiful way with colors, and it's like Minority Report, and you're just moving things around on your construction site, and you have that visibility to keep your trades flowing, keep everybody on your project productive, which of course is really important, in the labor shortages that we have in our industry today.
And that's right. I mean, look, that's the plague that we're losing more than we're getting in the industry. More guys are retiring, less guys are entering the field. We're making it more difficult, with all the rules and regulations, that each sub's facing every single day. So we have to do more with less. And now we're saying to them, all right, guys, we're going to get a little bit more detailed. I think that one of the judgments I have is that if you look at something like Uber, right? Uber changed the taxi world, right? If you really looked at what was amazing about it was that the technology changed the way the industry works, right? If we look at, it used to be that a taxi driver would have to go to years of, they have to go to school. They have to learn every street and learn all the rules and all the stuff that needs to happen to be able to be a taxi driver in that city. And you'd have to get a shield, essentially your license to be able to run your taxi cab. And then, the cost of that shield and all the impact of that was so heavy that you'd had to share the car. So oftentimes you had, 2 and 3 shifts in a car, driving that car all day long. And, all of a sudden comes Uber, and now a mom or dad can drop the kids off at school, go pick up a couple rides, come back, and by the time their lunch is there, have lunch, go pick the kids up after school. Maybe at night, if they feel the kids are done with homework, I can go make some more money. They can go in and out of doing the work, and the technology made it so that all you got to do is know how to drive, right? Will AI do that for the construction world? Will the future of where we're going because of our right now we're asking folks to bid these projects, and I think a big part of what we have the problem at is we start with projects upside down, that we don't have a clarity of vision of the work they need to do, right? We ask them to bid on a project where drawings are half kind of baked, that in that process right there causes a lot of the frustration. Before we even start the project, there's confusion, right? How do we get to
Right.
that clarity of vision? How do we get to
The
that
Uber
clarity?
for construction, right? I mean, like if you think
Yeah.
about Uber, right? Uber's beauty is that it optimized a market, right? On the one side, you have people willing to drive who want to make money, and you have people who need to get places, right? And then you have all the Uber algorithms in between optimizing that two-sided market. And in construction, you have a similar situation, right? You have facility owners who, if it was up to them, that building would be up tomorrow, right? They don't
That's
want
right.
to wait a year for their building to be constructed. They just want to start doing business. So you have that side of the market, and you have the contractors and all the trades that work for the general contractors, that want to supply that service, and they want to do so, as optimi in an optimized way, right? So let me give you an example on schedules, and how we're doing this for schedules, and how AI impacts this, how AI can optimize these two parts of our market, the owners and the contractors. Uh, we have a customer, a big general contractor. They build a lot of life science facilities, and they've built enough life science facilities with us where they have all this data on their production rates. They know exactly how many sprinkler heads they can install in a week. They know how many linear feet of fire sprinkling pipe they can install. They know how many ducts they can install, how many square feet of walls, etc. They have all this data that they've gotten because Doxel's image recognition has measured over the course of all their projects how many linear feet or square feet they're installing every week. So they have all this data, and they have it connected to their schedule. Now, it used to be that they just would have like a template schedule. A new customer comes along, they have a schedule. That customer's like, can I get it built faster? And sometimes that general contractor would say yes, and they would come in with a lower bid. They'd come in with an aggressive schedule, and they'd be wrong and they would lose money, right? Sometimes they'd say no, like, and they'd lose business because the owner would find some other general contractor that got them what they want. Now, what this general contractor is doing with their owners when their clients come to them, they have all this data as to like when they can actually get this building done because they have historic data on their production rates. So sometimes they're saying very confidently to their clients, you want this building, this life science facility done 2 months earlier. I'm telling you, we've never built anything that fast in the history of our company. Um, I'm not going to do that. I can't do it that cheap. I can't do it that fast. And that's like a good no because they're not going to lose money. Margins are thin. It's good that they're saying no to those projects. On the other hand, they're winning more work because they can confidently say to certain clients, oh yeah, we actually have data that we thought that we could deliver fire sprinklers in a month in that phase of the project. But actually I have data showing that we can deliver that in 2 or 3 weeks. And so I can move your schedule up a bit. I can have a little bit less labor costs, and I can deliver that in time. And they're going to win work there against their competition as well. So that's how we're using this production data, which is all driven by AI, to allow our general contractor customers to optimize their margins at the end of the day.
And ultimately, that's what we want, right? If I can see, I think that's always been the risk that contractors go through is that when we're bidding a project, there's not that clarity of how production rates are going to go. So then I have to sandbag a little bit. I have to put a little extra in there to put that in there. And if I don't, because I still want to win the project, now I got to hope that we can optimize our schedule, and things go wrong. And when I don't follow the data, when I go see the real data, hey, look, no, we've never been able to do that. Look, we have not been able to do that. That's a flawed way of thinking. That it really takes time, and there's a certain amount of projects in there. Now, maybe we could start to look at some of the nuances that cause that time to take, and maybe there's some opportunity there. But there's always, I think that's what we're looking for, is that life cycle of information, right? Where we're learning from the work that we're actually doing, that gets fed back into schedules that we're creating. And every time we do the work, it makes the schedules a little bit smarter. And I think that's where the business gets way, way more powerful, is that I can see it. I can, on the other side of this wall here in the studio, I've got a big sign that says dirt to dishes in 4 weeks, right? The ability to
Mm-hmm.
build buildings, ground up buildings way, way faster, right? And up until now, it's been that clarity of vision to be able to see where we need people and when we need people. But the more I can see it, right, the more I can see that, all right, I need this group here at 9:15. They're going to work for 4.5 hours and knock this out. And I don't need them back again, or another team, until here, because the next group's going to do this, this, and this, right? As I can see that, if I can sell that to a group where I can show them, hey, look, if your guys come in and work these 4 hours and get these items done, right, I'll show you how we'll all make money a little bit faster.
Yeah,
Right? I
can I
think
give
that's
you
oh
can,
yeah.
can I give you an example here, Anthony? This is
Yeah.
how I think about you gave an Uber example, and that's a great example. But I also think of it like a Google Maps example. I don't know if you're I remember when I was first interviewing for jobs, like right out of college, I was interviewing for jobs, and I didn't have it was before I had a Google app on my phone to tell me where to go. And I'd create all this buffer. I gotta be on time for this interview, right? But
That's
I've
right.
never been to this office before. It's downtown. There could be all this traffic. I might get lost, right? So I would create all this buffer. I'd be like, I'm gonna show up to this interview an hour early, right? But I don't do that anymore, right? Because I just type in my phone the address I want to go. It predicts what the traffic's going to be. It tells me the best route to get there. If some car accident happens, it reroutes me, right? So I still get there on time because it's
That's right.
optimized, right? And I think that, we used to have all this buffer in like driving to the places that we wanted to go. And what those Google Map algorithms have done is they allow us to like not waste as much time sitting in traffic, right? Or just waiting for our appointment to start. And I think that with good data construction, an AI assistant can be that for the construction industry, where you're just getting rerouted. A piece of equipment is late. Okay, well, that's okay. I know where I am. I'm going to get my trade flow going in a different direction. We'll start from north to south instead of south to north, or whatever it is on your project. And everything will be on time because we have that AI assistant helping us stay on time.
For sure, that's got to be where we're going. The margins we have because of, I mean, oftentimes I think about where the problems start is that, you know, we work on a lot of prefab buildings, and in prefab buildings, the amount of data that we need to generate before we even start the production of a prefab wall or pre-finished walls is that we have to solve every one of every layout, all the stuff, all of that has to get started before we do these prefab walls, right? We have to figure out the exact measurements. Everything's got to be done to the nth degree. Some of these wall panels that we bring in have the baseboard in, the sink attachments to them, the outlets already attached to them. We've got door casings in place. And in order to do a prefab project like that, the amount of data we collect or create before we start a project is really what's needed to make that project successful. Well, in stick built buildings, sometimes we don't do that. We push that information gathering to the field, and I think that's through some of these processes that we've been working on. We notice that amount of data collected before we start the project really makes the whole rest of the project. That's the way we should be building everything, right? It's generating all the data up front. A lot of us are in this space where, we're competitively bidding projects. I don't know about you guys, but I watch the amount of money that gets wasted in this bid process itself. You've got poor data in, you got plans that may or may not be complete, right? And now we're trying to, at a subcontractor level, solve for the data missing. And we're doing this analysis work on putting together bids. Now, let's say that, an average restaurant or ground up building we're doing, let's call it 50 lineups. I'm just gonna use that for round numbers. Let's say that we got 50 separate lineup: carpentry, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. And for us, we have 3 subs per line item bidding it because we want to win the project. Now, let's say it costs each of those companies $1,000 to bid. It costs them more, but let's use 1,000 for round numbers. I've got $150,000 in bid time just for the people that are bidding it, and we haven't won a project yet. Right now, I'm competing against 5 or 6 other, let's call it 5 other projects. That's $750,000 that's taken out of the industry, and no one's won the project yet. Now we win the project, and because of competitive bidding, one guy said 10, one guy said 8, one guy said 9. Now I've got to work with that guy who said 9, right? Who may or may not have the team to deliver, and then the domino effect of having that that team that can't deliver because of pricing, right? Instead of having the right contractor, the right team, the right number of people to meet a schedule, right? Where an owner ultimately ends up paying for it anyways, right? The time delays, project delays, the stuff that impacts it. Our way of thinking is a little flawed in the industry. I think a lot of what we got to shift is that mindset shift to what you're talking about is really getting to the place where we know more about a project and we're finding the right teams to create those schedules that can deliver on, how much ductwork we can install in a day, right? How many sprinkler heads we know we need to get in there to meet the schedule. So when we're finding those right teammates, ultimately there's, like Uber, there is the right amount of, I don't think any of us are really complaining about our Uber fees. Maybe you go to Lyft or Uber, maybe there's some choices there, but ultimately once it gets figured out, there's kind of the right price that we know we're gonna have to pay anyways, right? Isn't there somewhere where we take out the ineffective work of the industry, that stuff that really sucks a lot of the value out of the industry before we get started? If we move that, take that out and we kind of create some, start looking for the right subs. Now, ultimately, don't the projects happen on time, and the savings on the deliverable and the quality end up equaling anything that you might have saved in that whole, some of the efficiencies get ironed out as we start to think about these in a different way.
Right, right, right. No, I couldn't agree more, Anthony. I mean, for me, there's always these like two quotes on either side of my head. Like if I have two little guys on my shoulders, right? On one shoulder, the, there's a little guy saying, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail," right? And we
Mm.
invest so much in planning. We need to invest a lot in planning, right? On the other side is Mike Tyson. The other shoulder, I got Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson he said, he said, if you, he said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's
So
right.
we gotta do both. We gotta work with both those approaches. We gotta invest a lot in planning, and we have to have the best data to plan better. And then we have to build faster, right? And we need to adapt to the punches, right? Because we can't predict everything. Weather delays, labor issues, supply chain. We've been on projects where there's strikes that break out, et cetera, right? Like lots of things happen during construction, right? And so you gotta plan as much as you can, but you also have to be able to adapt. And that's where the more data that we can provide our clients to help them with both parts of that, the better they're able to plan, the faster they're able to build. And what I hear a lot, when I'm in the field and I'm talking to our clients, and they're talking about the things that are causing them to be delayed, which ultimately causes them to have reduced margins. It's really two things. They're talking about labor shortage and they're talking about rework. Okay, I got too much labor shortage. I just can't deliver on time because I can't get enough labor in the field. And even when my team is there, I can't keep them productive. I feel like there's more opportunity to create productivity by avoiding rework. I've seen a lot of stats in the industry, like 30% of construction costs go into rework. But let's start on the labor side. So uh, if I may, there was a recent report from the Association of General Contractors. They surveyed 1,400 contractors. 85% of them said they have open positions in 2024. 88% said they don't plan on being able to fulfill those positions in 2024. So labor is a huge problem in the construction industry that's preventing us from delivering on time and making our clients happy. And what I see is that we have our clients are using our production rates tied to schedule. So they're looking at their trends on their project. And I was talking to one superintendent. He was looking at the trend of piping getting installed, and then he looked at we have a dotted line showing where he should be, his schedule, and he typed in, we have this production rate calculator. He typed in how many people he had on site, and he saw like he was not going to be able to. He was going to be 4 weeks delayed on this installation, and that was on the critical path, so it was going to be 4 weeks late on the project. He just did a print screen. He sent that off to the trade partner, and that trade partner immediately saw, hey, I don't want to cause this whole project to be late. Uh, I need to double my crew size, and they were able to double their crew size on that site because they had data to back up that the field should, I'm sorry, the laborer should go on that site, the plumber should go on that site instead of another site, and those production rates went back up, and they delivered on time. So I think that once we have this we have this labor shortage problem in the industry. We need to make sure that we have the labor allocated to the right projects to keep those projects on time and not have slack on other projects that are probably going to be on time regardless of whether they're on site or not, you know.
I think you're right on. I think if you can give a subcontractor clarity of vision of the need, they can do it, right? It's in the ambiguity that makes it hard for them. They can't see why, just having a super call up and say, I need more people. I need more people. It's like,
Yeah, you don't want the loudest
yeah,
the loudest
yeah,
guy shouting to get the labor.
right.
Like there should
That
be like a
right.
more systematic way to decide how to allocate labor to different projects.
I look. I believe most owners, if they can show, hey, look, this is a clear picture. I need more people. Then they can react to it. And if I communicate with them that well in advance, that look, we have clear history data showing that I need 5 men to get this done in 5 days. That if I show them that with plenty of time in advance, that that clarity of vision has them be able to manage that, right? They can pull guys from where they need to pull. They can coordinate their other teams to make that work. And I think that's one of the things that's missing in most of the schedules we're out there. We just say start here, done here, and there isn't a why we need more people. I think the
Right.
more that we can show that production history, we can show that schedule, why that's happened. I think all of a sudden now we're in a much better clarity of vision and a story that gets created. Now, okay, look, I subcontract. I want to make you happy, general contractor. I want to make you. I look. I want more work from you, and I want to be able to deliver. Ultimately, they want to deliver, right? They want to make their customer happy, and they want to make money. They don't want to send men to a job site that aren't productive, right? Because then they lose money on the project, right? So there's always that balance between, all right, don't if you can show me that, I think that's it's awesome. I think that's one thing that Doxel does a great job at, is having that production history create that vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Anthony, could we talk about rework a little bit? I'd love to
Yeah,
talk
get in the
about
rework.
rework.
Yeah, no, listen,
All right,
come on.
let's talk about rework.
How much rework are we doing in the industry?
So I'm gonna go back here to the the beginning of my career. I was a structural engineer. I spent a lot of time on site. I remember my first job, maybe 1, 2 years in, I walk in onto the site and I see one of the beams that I designed, and then I see a duct going through that beam. And what the contractor had done is they had basically cut that duct in half and then sealed it around the beam. So you got like this 3 foot by 3 foot big duct, and then at some point what goes under the beam, it's like 1.5 feet in height, right? Because they cut it, right? Like, oh, the mechanical contractor is not going to be happy about that. The mechanical designer is not going to be happy about that. That's not going to create the conditioning that we need for our occupants that are eventually going to walk into this building. So I've seen rework, and I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, what is going on here? Like, how could we be doing this? I've seen rework firsthand, in the field, and I find rework really frustrating. And I think the industry finds rework really frustrating because we're all proud of the work that we do, right? We all want to like be productive. We want to like do the best we can. We're all talented, and to rip out work that we spent days installing is just the most gut wrenching feeling in the world. Like, nobody wants to do that. So one of the ways, and I have to admit, we didn't really design it this way. Doxel was designed to deliver projects faster, to tie it to schedule, to have good data around production tracking. But one of the surprising ways that I've seen our customers use our product is that we have this visualization where all the different components on your site light up as they're installed. Okay, they light up in all these bright colors: pink, purple, yellow, green, right? To give our field team this great way to coordinate with the different stages of construction at a component level, right? Very detailed. Every segment of wall, every support for your pipe, every duct hanger. And one of the ways that a superintendent was telling me that he uses our product is he looks for the gray, because if stuff's not installed yet, it's just dull gray. And I was like, oh, you're not looking at the colors, you're looking for the boring gray parts. And he told me about a time when he thought the drywall was going to come in on Monday. This was the Thursday or Friday. He thought drywall trade was going to come in Monday. He was going to cover up all the walls with that were all these pipes. And he noticed that one of the vertical runs of pipe was still gray. And he's like, wait a minute, that needs to be installed. Like, we're going to cover that up. And he called up the foreman, and the foreman thought that it was all done, and he looked at our visualization and he was like, oh, and we have pictures there as photos, so you can just like quickly click on a photo and see, hey, that's not installed yet. And they caught it. They were able to install that pipe, and they later told me that that part of that building, that was a data center building,
Sure.
was on the critical path. And if they hadn't done that, they would have had probably a big fight between the drywall contractor and the plumbing contractor. Probably one of them would have had liquidated damages because they would have had to rip out all that drywall. And that project probably would have been at least 1 or 2 weeks delayed, because at the end of the project, they would have discovered that there was this pipe missing, and they would have had to rip it out and reinstall it. That's not productive for anybody. The plumbing
No.
trade would have to come back onto site to fix that. So it's examples like that we see time and time again when we add all of those examples and we get averages, we're saving about 10 to 11% on schedule every project that we do on average by avoiding rework like that. And when labor is short, like we talked about, right? Like keeping that labor productive and making sure that they're not doing rework is very important.
It's not just a money killer, it's a motivation killer. Look, ever been with men who had to tear something down and redo it? The frustration happens in the field, the blame shame game that happens out there. It's just it's terrible, right? It's frustrating for all of us. You're like, come on. I don't want, the frustration happens out there is it's overwhelming. And look, our people are working their butts off out there. And you're right. There's, this business is not easy, and to go back and redo work, it's a killer. As we're getting smarter at seeing these pieces, catching these ideas, we're doing them much fast. I mean, look, imagine building that building with that ductwork you were talking about, and getting to the finalization of a project, and then having to tear it out, right? Not
Right.
catching it, and then have to, right, that impact right there. The domino effect of that starts getting way bigger, right? And I think that's what we're trying to get to the point where we're missing it. Today, I think that we've got a lot of technology that's starting to catch it, right? It's kind of like our medicine, right? If you looked at our previous medicine, I call it medicine 1.0, right? There was, I think, our old medicine was bloodletting and praying that we're not going to get sick. And then 2.0 was kind of, all right, we got sick. Now we figured out how to live with it longer. And then 3.0 becomes this, let's prevent us from having the problem. I feel like that's where we're at in the industry, right? We had
The
kind of the,
leeches, is it like the leeches phase
yeah,
where you're
go
putting
back
the
to leeches,
leeches
right,
on
right.
the?
Right, we were leeches before, right? We were 1.0 construction was leeches, and I mean, like we had this way of being that we're just was pay heavy stuff, bring it over, bang on it, and hopefully we all yell at each other enough and we get it done. And today 2.0, we're getting to the point where we're starting to catch stuff and fix it. We're trying to fix it faster. Now 3.0, I think, becomes where we start to prevent it from happening, and we start to get way further ahead of it in the technology we're using to design drawings. And where we're going into 3D models, and we start to be able to see the BIM models that have clarity of crossover connections, and being able to see that, and AI that can catch it in the BIM model before we go into production or prefab, so that those items get caught. Look, before we build it, right? I mean, so we don't have the problem. So I think it's kind of fun watching that go. You guys have become, you guys are really masters of the visualization. Talk to me a little about the path you've been with Doxel. Talk to me a little about where you started
So
and how you
yeah,
guys are
so
advancing.
like where I started in my career, let me share. So I mentioned I was a structural engineer. I mentioned I was a structural engineer. I'm gonna go back. I think you're a Chicago guy. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. My grandfather had a factory downtown in Chicago, and I would go visit him on the train, and I was just in awe of the architecture of Chicago and the skyscrapers and the construction going on. And we talk about the industry, the construction industry, like construction professionals, the folks in the field are some of the most talented people in the world. And the fact that they can build skyscrapers and hospitals and data centers by deciphering sets of drawings, hundreds of drawing sheets, they can look at that and understand how to craft something in the real world at that scale, at that complexity. It's amazing. And I think that sometimes society just looks at the end result. They see these beautiful spaces, but they don't understand everything behind the walls, right? And it's almost
Sure.
like we do ourselves a disservice, right? It's like it seems simple, but it's extremely complex. And I remember going down to my grandfather's factory, and he had all these motors on a wall because he made these little electric motors, and he would test them, right? And he would make sure that every single motor, in a Six Sigma style, but this is probably way before Six Sigma got fashionable, like that there was just this quality and reliability to what he was building. And so those kind of two things stuck in my head. Like I wanna build something that lasts, and has this positive impact on society, which I think that the construction industry does, right? Like the whole world couldn't exist without the construction industry. But I want to do it with this sort of like reliability of a factory, with this instrumentation of a factory, so that we can kind of turn this crazy complexity, which causes us all a whole bunch of stress and is hard to like manage in our heads, and turn it into something that just kind of runs a little smoother. You know, and I think that as I got into being a structural engineer, I got into the impact of that technology can have on the construction industry in the very early days of BIM. And I've been managing products in the construction tech space for the last 20 years or so, because I've seen how technology can make our lives better, and in the end, you know, deliver more facilities to society, that society needs.
I mean, look, we're not going to. We need buildings. We're growing. Our population is growing. Well, not necessarily. I heard Elon Musk say today our population is it's not growing, but
It's
we'll
growing
see
some
if that.
places, shrinking
Yeah,
others, you know.
I can see that. But look, it's for sure. Look, our industry is getting faster. I mean, look, and we're losing more people. And people always are worried. Oh my God, am I going to have a job later? I'm like, look, we're shorting. We have a shortage of people all over the place around here. There's plenty of jobs for us to be looking at. But look, as we take technology and make this a smarter building, right, and get that information in, that create that cycle of learning how to do something, taking what the learning, bring it back to the development of what we're doing, take it through a full life cycle of information. That's the gift of where we're going. Is this technology is now enabling us to get way smarter, and ultimately will have us build buildings way more efficient. And it's going to push our buttons a little bit. Look, it's great. Reid, I think pushing us forward has always been a little bit confusing, right? We always had these ideas of growing and then actually growing. The idea, between the two of those, there was always kind of this nightmare of stuff as we grew great ideas. Most people couldn't make it through the idea growing, right? And look, we're pushing some of our buttons as we step on these new technologies. Every time I talk to someone about AI, they're like, "Oh my God, my job's gonna be gone." I'm like, "Look, man, we've had our jobs, our world will change. AI is going to impact the industry and every one of our jobs, but remember that we've always, we've so far we've survived all of our worst days, and we've also always kept getting more creative. And there's other opportunities that keeps getting creative every technology. Maybe sometimes we can't see it from where we are today, but there's always been more things that the human has created all kinds of amazing stuff on this planet. And I feel like we're going to continue to do so. Reid, I think the work that you're doing is phenomenal. To watch Doxel, look, folks, if you guys want to get into a project management software, the ability to see a site, to watch your building get constructed, notice where you've got opportunities to dial things in. You got to jump in with Reid and his group and really look at Doxel for your construction projects. I'm going to put some great links down below for you and the team to go take a look at that. If you guys want to go do that now, you'll love it. It's really amazing software and the product that they deliver. Reid, anything else that you want to tell the world?
Yeah, check us out. Doxel automated progress tracking. We launch really easiest software in the world. Let AI do the counting for you, because you are, I think the industry, like you said, the industry is brilliant. Like AI is not going to replace that, but AI can do the simple things like counting and comparing where you are relative to your schedule to be your assistant in the industry. So yeah, thanks a lot, Anthony. I enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun.
No, listen, I love you. Can come out anytime you guys have a new breakthrough over Doxel or any of the new stuff you're putting out there. I want the world to see it. Look, I love what you're doing. It's just such a smart way of looking at a project. Folks, you got to go click the link and go check them out. Reid, I'm grateful to have you on here. It's been a lot of fun at pre-show talking about what you guys are doing and just watching Doxel in action. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to catch up with you?
Yeah, Reid, REID at doxel.ai.
doxel.ai, REID at doxel.ai. I'll put the
Yes.
links to that down below also. As folks, as always, thanks for being here. I'm grateful to have you on the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Anthony. Thanks again.
Hey, audience, I noticed that last week we had over 5,000 downloads last week of our show, people got to the end of the show and it was great. But I noticed that more than 40% of you guys weren't subscribers yet. If you guys would do me a favor right now and just take a second, like and subscribe to the show, it means the world to me and Joe and Connor, the guys in the background that run the show. It just means the world to us. And it gets us great guests like Reid on here, and their companies get to come on because we've got some good numbers for them for our audience. So if you guys could take a second and do that for me now, I'd be grateful. Look, it really does make a difference for me. And if you take a second to do that, and as always, thanks for listening.